basketball. The problem is when you put that kind of pressure on one player, it's leaving other guys open. If the other guys, like Gasol, make shots, like Green, make shots, you're going to lose a basketball game, and that's exactly what happened. So what do you do tonight if you're the Warriors?
It's interesting you talk about the way they were triple-double and triple-teaming Kawhi Leonard. We saw that in other series as well. Kawhi, in some cases, was able to overcome that and still have big nights. You'd see him put up 35 points in a night. But I think towards the end of that series against Milwaukee in the last round, we saw other guys start to step up. We really saw the emergence of the bench for the Raptors starting to contribute with some points. We saw some of the other starters get their games going as well. But I think one of the keys right throughout the entire playoffs for the Raptors has been their defense. And I remember looking up the clock with 5 minutes to go in Game 1 and seeing 94 points on the visitor's side and thinking, wow, that's the Golden State Warriors, still under 100 points late in the fourth quarter. Not a lot of teams have been able to hold them to that.
No, I think you're exactly right. This is a defense that the Warriors haven't faced so far in the playoffs. Certainly not against the Trailblazers. These guys are fast, they're athletic, they're long, and they beat the Warriors at their end game. They beat them in transitional offense. And I watched that game back over when I got back to my hotel. The Warriors were just slow in getting back, which is not a Steve Kerr team. That doesn't happen. Now, why did it happen? You can say it's a long layoff, but I think they were a little surprised by a couple of things. The speed and the fact that other players were able to contribute significantly offensively. Gasol, that should have been no surprise. We saw him in the Milwaukee game, right? He can shoot from the outside. And Danny Green was like 1 for 15 going into that series, into this series from three, and he was like 3 for 4. It seemed like he hit 6. So they got a lot.
Another guy right there. I mean, we've seen Danny Green in NBA Finals just on fire from beyond the arc. You think about 2013 when he was with San Antonio. I mean, he was dominant in that series. They lost that series, but he was great from beyond the arc. I've heard people say that maybe he could have been the MVP of that series had San Antonio actually won. So, I mean, if Danny Green can pick up his game, that could be a secret weapon for the Raptors. But you talk about Marc Gasol as well. Raptor fans know that earlier in these playoffs, he wasn't hitting those shots. In fact, I remember watching games when Philadelphia was in here in the second round of these playoffs, where you could hear the bench yelling, let him shoot, because he wasn't hitting those shots. But it was towards the end of that last round where Marc Gasol picked it up and started hitting those long-distance shots, where it's come to the point where you can't just let him shoot anymore. You're going to have to find a way to stop him as well.
I think these teams are similar. You know, they're both fast. They both like to run. They can push the basketball. Now, to your point, Gasol, Green, and who am I leaving out there? Hit shots that they had to make to beat the Warriors. Now, the Warriors' philosophy is this. If you are going to double team Steph, or you're going to trap Steph, you know, you're going to blitz Steph, he's going to get rid of the basketball. And so Draymond is going to have to make shots, and Iguodala is going to have to make shots. You want to look at the difference in game one. The players on Toronto made their shots. Green and Iguodala did not. I think Green was like 2 for 7, maybe 2 for 9. Did have a triple-double, but he missed shots. And the Raptors are going to give him those shots. So unless he starts making them and Iguodala starts making them, you know, it's going to be difficult.
All right, Dennis, I think we got a question over here. Megan is here. She's helping us out. You got a question for us?
Dennis, we know you've been here for a few days now. Want to know what you think about our Toronto fans, but also our city.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. No, it's a world class. I love Toronto. I go to a city like this, and if I have a couple days, I'll walk all over the town. And then I did exactly that. The one place I missed, Greg, I wanted to get the St. Louis market, right? And it was closed on Sundays. And I wanted to get that bacon sandwich that Anthony Bourdain made famous. So I didn't make it there, but I made it over to Toronto Park, where you take a ferry out there, beautiful backdrop of the city. I think they're having a flooding problem out there or something.
We're seeing Lake Ontario, the highest water levels in the history, I guess recorded history right now. So the water levels are high. It's causing a lot of problems for people on Toronto Island, for sure.
Is that a problem because of global warming?
Well, I think, yeah, a climate change. I think we want to call it climate change. Yeah, global warming. When we call it global warming, then people say, but it snowed in the wintertime.
Right, exactly. But anyway, the bottom line is I've walked all over the place, eaten great food, met great people, very hospitable. It's a great town. I recommend it. If I'm playing tourist. Right there, I recommend anybody to come to Toronto. Great.
I think one thing that, and I know the Raptors are very happy about this, is the fact that playing on this stage in the NBA Finals, having this window to not just the United States, but really almost the entire planet. The Raptors are really able to showcase these fans and the passion, and seeing fans lined up down the street just so they can watch outside on a big screen. I mean, there's a lot of passion, and I did talk to some reporters that work in the San Francisco, Oakland area, and they say there's just nothing like that out there during these playoff runs.
In the Oakland Coliseum, you don't have that because the Oakland Coliseum sits alone, a lot of parking lots, so people don't come out and congregate at the Coliseum for Warrior games. They will next year when the team moves to the Chase Center in San Francisco, but having said that, Cleveland does have an area like that, and it's fantastic as well.
I've been in there with Cleveland. They started doing that after they saw us do that here. And when
really?
They
so
did.
Cleveland followed your lead.
Toronto started it. That's what Drake said the other day.
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, when we went to Milwaukee, when they just opened their new arena, the Pfizer Forum, this year, and they actually built a space in there for that as well, and it's incredible. And I mean, hats off to them. It is an amazing space. They put in a whole district of bars. They call it the Deer District. It's really incredible. So it's become a thing now, and I guess in San Francisco, the Golden State Warriors are going to have it as well.
It used to be where stadiums were put out in the middle of nowhere, right? Now they're in the center of the city. They bring a vibrance to the area. The Giants Stadium is, San Francisco Giants, is a 10-minute walk from where Chase is going to be. And the Giants Stadium really revitalized the entire South of Market area. It's a depressed, industrial area. You didn't go down there at night, but that sports stadium and now Chase is bringing so much life to San Francisco. By the way, the Oakland Coliseum, where the Raiders and the Oakland A's play, they just signed a deal yesterday for naming rights. Ready? $1 million a year. So I researched this place.
Yeah, which is the highest in all of sports.
$40 million a year, and the Oakland Coliseum gets $1 million.
Scotiabank Arena, that's the highest naming rights in all of sports. Pretty incredible. At least it was when it was signed. I'm pretty sure it still is. But, it's interesting. Speaking of naming rights, what will they call the space where fans are going to be able to congregate and watch games in San Francisco? We've got Jurassic Park here, the Deer District in Milwaukee. What are you going to call it? I mean, could they, the Warriors, I think maybe the Battlefield? What would they call it?
That's a good question. That's a good contest to put out there.
Maybe our viewers here could help us with that. If you have any ideas, send them to us. We'll be happy to send them out there.
Greg obviously is anticipating a rematch in 2020 of the Warriors and the Raptors down at the Chase Center. It's going to be a beautiful building. I can't wait for it to open up.
I've heard good things. I think we have a question here from Megan.
So we do. We have a question from Joey on YouTube, and he asked, will Siakam be the Finals MVP?
Okay, so it's one game in, so it's a little early to say who we think the Finals MVP is. But after that first game, do you think he'd be a candidate as the Finals MVP?
After the first game, of course. I mean, 32 points. He was a one-man wrecking crew. I think it's going to change tonight. Draymond is one of the best defensive players in the NBA.
Well, it's interesting you say that because in his press conference, he did say that was on him and that he now has to shut him down.
Yeah, and that's a personal challenge to Draymond Green. So the fact that so many players did so well offensively in Game 1 for the Raptors. I think that's going to change in Game 2, and I think Siakam is going to be challenged much more by Draymond. So what surprised me about Siakam is he was the leader of the transitional offense. He was beating Draymond down the court. He was the one getting layups off the backboard, although some incredible layups, beating Draymond Green. Draymond takes that stuff personally, and I expect a significant change in Game 2.
I think Siakam might be the NBA's best kept secret, because we in Toronto have been seeing that all season long. I mean, probably the most improved player in basketball. I don't know if he'll win that award, but I mean...
Well, it turns out that he was a steal in the draft, I think. Draymond, by the way, was the second-round pick. But Siakam is a great story. And leading up to this series, a lot of writers in the Bay Area were saying, you know, this Siakam guy, watch out, he's pretty good. So I think he's flying under the radar a little bit. He's not flying under the radar anymore. He's got the Warriors' attention. And I love to see, you know, sometimes when we go out to the games and watch them alone, you can isolate a player, isolate a matchup, and that's going to be one that I'm looking for tonight.
We watched that matchup. We've got a question for Megan, but I was just going to say, I was isolating the matchup between Kawhi Leonard and Giannis in the last round, and I mean, that was just incredible to watch. Two giants in the game right now going toe-to-toe. So it'll be great to watch Draymond Green and Pascal Siakam going toe-to-toe. So Megan's got a question here for us.
Okay, so Nole Austin on YouTube is asking what a lot of people in this city have been asking, which is, do you think will Kawhi Leonard stay?
This is the million-dollar question, and I could predict what your answer is going to be, but I'll let you say it. But I know that south of the border, there's not a lot of confidence.
There's not a lot of confidence that he's going to stay?
There's not a lot of confidence. There's not a lot of people that believe he'll be in Toronto next season.
Yeah, well, the Clippers is the obvious destination, or the speculated destination. But if Kawhi and the Raptors win the NBA championship, I mean, he's going to max out wherever he goes. We understand that. But
the one incentive the Raptors have is the fact they can give him the extra year.
Yeah, okay, so that's $30 million maybe. Or anyway, if they win the championship, I think Kawhi has to seriously consider staying. What some of the Warrior players, including Patrick McCaw, I think now understand, the grass is not always greener. If you put an NBA champion, that guy is going to own Canada. This is the only NBA team north of the border. So it's not like he's playing for the Clippers, who have the Lakers right in his own backyard. He's competing against Showtime. I mean, the Lakers are terrible. The organization is dysfunctional, but right now, you turn on ESPN and Screamin' A is talking about what? He's talking about Magic Johnson and the Lakers' dysfunction. The Clippers are the...
I don't think he wants to be a part of that either. I don't think he wants that kind of spotlight.
Yeah, well, he's not going to be in that spotlight because he's going to be playing for the Clippers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's the Lakers, and then there's the Clippers. Right now, he owns this country. So
I'll tell you what, here's my take on it. If it comes down to weather and being close to home, he is an LA guy. I mean, we've never really had a chance anyways for him to sign here again in Toronto. But if he's going to seriously consider some of the things that this franchise and this organization were able to offer him, I mean, you look at this load management system, it was this organization that was willing to buy into that and allow him to have that kind of season where he only played 60 games. And it was the doctors here that worked with his doctors. You know, I know that they've done everything but roll out the red carpet for him to be here. And if you look at some of the other key factors, we were just talking about Pascal Siakam, and you look at Kawhi Leonard's numbers when Pascal Siakam is on the court. Kawhi Leonard is a much better player when he's got Pascal Siakam on the court with him. So that might be a selling feature as well. I think the Raptors would also sell him on the fact that they will go out and build around him to try and keep this winning. And I think if he does sign here, I think you'll see a contract where he's got some sort of out clause after a year or two, where or maybe every year, he'll have the option to opt out of this contract. But I think if he does sign here, it would be for a max deal and then with those kinds of perks.
If we're talking strictly a business decision, Toronto is a place for Kawhi Leonard. There's no doubt.
You look at what's happening right now with his biggest sponsor, New Balance, and what they're able to do in terms of marketing. There's that big banner, I don't know if you saw it, that's in Oakland right now that says, "The King of the North is coming."
A lot of controversy with that banner in Oakland.
Well, but I mean, but it's a great promotion for New Balance, isn't it? And we've got people right now around this building wearing New Balance crowns that say "the King of the North." I mean, it's not like being here has hurt him in terms of exposure, in terms of people around the league, people around North America for that matter, seeing him, because his play on the court has made him visible.
Yeah, that's true. But he's an NBA champion elsewhere. So if he wins this, he goes, I brought one to San Antonio, Toronto, I can win wherever I go. Like I say, if you're talking strictly business, he stays in Toronto. But sometimes guys I just want to play back at home. I want to play.
And he's made a big deal about the weather as well.
Yeah. Well, that's a drawback, right?
It is.
Yeah. So
I mean, he's not a cold weather guy. He said at the NBA All-Star game, they asked him, "How do you like Toronto?" And the first thing he said is, "It's cold."
Yeah. There's a personal decision and there's a business decision. If he leaves here, it's a personal decision.
Oh, we've got another question here from Megan. What do we have?
Okay. Edwin Sorto from YouTube wants to know, will OG return tonight?
OG Antoninobi, he has not been in the lineup. He had an emergency appendectomy before the playoffs even started. Hasn't played a game. I know he's been working on the court. In fact, he was just out there a few minutes ago. It looks like he's left the court now. I'll tell you my opinion. I see no reason why you would put him back in. The guy hasn't played in a long time. The Raptors are doing really well right now without him. There's no reason to put him back in the lineup right now, but I'll let you have a take on that.
No, I think you're exactly right. And conversely, the Warriors look at it, oh my God, we need to Kevin Durant back on the floor because we lost game one. I mean, DeMarcus Cousins, to your point, he hasn't played in a while, right? So DeMarcus Cousins hadn't played in a long time either, and he got a few minutes in game one. The Warriors say he was effective, had a couple assists, affected the game defensively, offensively. So DeMarcus Cousins' minutes are going to go up. But to your point, the Warriors need help. I'm not sure the Blazers want to change anything about game one, but you know, 7-game series is like a chess match. It's always about adjustments.
Yeah, now Anunoby is a guy that could come in and really help the Raptors defense if they need him. He's healthy. I'm sure they would consider bringing him in. But this is a guy who hasn't played in over a month. You don't just throw a guy into the NBA Finals, especially when you're winning. They got 5 straight wins.
Played in months.
Yeah.
You know, so it depends on the situation and it depends on the team's need. My thought is all hands on deck. More players are better than none, but you know, we're down. The Warriors are down one game. So
I think if you see the Raptors lose a few games in a row, maybe they consider if they need them defensively. But we've got another question here.
Dennis, before we wrap up, we just want to get your thoughts on one more thing. There's this idea that everyone is cheering for the Raptors, including people in the States. Think there's any truth to that? What's going on?
I think there's truth to it. I think everywhere outside of California right now is just sick and tired of seeing the Golden State Warriors win every year.
People hate winners. They hate champions. They hate dynasties. Do you think anybody pulls for Tom Brady and Bill Belichick? They can't stand him. So there was a graphic the other day. It looked like a political graphic, right? All the states in the United States were either red or blue. Blue was for the Warriors, and red was for the Raptors. I think the Warriors had California and maybe Nevada, but that was pretty much it. So do people want to see the Warriors dethroned? Absolutely. But it's not just the Warriors. I think there's something about the Raptors that people find really attractive. That was the first NBA Finals game in Canadian history. That was a great story. The Kawhi thing, Pascal Siakam, nobody had any idea who this guy was before the series began. You learn about his story, read about his father, the tragedy there, and I think people are falling in love with the fact that a Canadian team can win the NBA title. And by the way, I did a story yesterday on the influence of the NBA in Canada, and youth basketball officials said that 6 years ago there were 27 youth leagues in all of Canada, and today there are 320. That was before the craze of the 2019 Raptors. So
I'll say one last thing in closing, and when it comes to the popularity of basketball in this country, we go back to the All-Star game. I believe it was 2000 or 2001, Vince Carter winning the slam dunk competition. That really inspired. And you look now across the league, you see so many Canadian players, particularly from the GTA, who were just inspired by Vince. They were inspired to see a guy winning something on that stage, and that was such a big deal. And I think that was a part of it. But something like this, you're absolutely right. A team going to the NBA Finals, it's clearly inspired the entire country. Everybody seems to be behind this team right now, so I think absolutely this is only going to increase that pool of people that are just into basketball. Right?
I also think Draymond turns a lot of fans outside of the Bay Area off. He's cocky, but he backs it up on the court.
You know what, though, about Draymond? Great. If you're a member of the media, he's fantastic. I mean, he just says it like it is.
But he says it articulately. I think he speaks well. He speaks his mind, not afraid to hide it. And Draymond represents what the Warriors are really all about. I tell you what, Greg, I've been covering Bay Area sports. You're going back about 37, 38 years. And I covered the Warriors, through the 49ers through their era of the 80s. And I think this Warriors team, this organization, is the best in the history of Bay Area sports. They know it. They have it dialed in from top to bottom. You have to make the right draft picks, and they did with Steph, they did with Clay, what they did with Draymond. But it's a top-flight organization. So I expect that to continue, but I understand why the Warriors, people want to knock off Golden State.
We could do another half an hour and just talk about the 49ers in the 80s and guys like Joe Montana and then Steve Young and Jerry Rice, of course. I mean, there's so much to talk about there. We don't have time to do that, but thank you so much, Dennis, for doing this. This was fantastic. Thank you for tuning in to watch this. I hope maybe there was some information there that was useful to some people out there, but yeah, this is going to be a fun game tonight. Do you have a prediction for game 2 before we go?
I was dead wrong in game 1 on CBC. On the set, I was preempted, by the way, by the Vice President Pence and Trudeau during a press conference. I picked the Warriors to win the series. Tonight, I think the Warriors win this game. You're going to see that transition defense speed up for Golden State. Draymond took it personally. I can't wait for that matchup, but I think the Warriors rebound and we go back to Oakland tied at 1 game apiece.
I've been saying this every game. The Warriors are a powerhouse team, and the Raptors definitely need to come with something a little more than they did in game 1. Not that was a bad game for them, but they've got to figure this team out because it only gets better from here. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.